and welcome to the new Adventure is a Lifestyle Travel Show. I'm your host, Lauren Gay, the outdoorsy diva. So, a little housekeeping, go ahead, hit that subscribe button for me, and turn on your notifications to be sure you don't miss an episode. Now, back to business. Why am I going to Auburn, New York, this small town that you have likely never heard of? Well, recently I went to the Finger Lakes region of upstate New York. It's a beautiful, beautiful place, but this city in particular left such a big impression on me, and really it was life changing. I think it's a city that every American citizen should visit at least once in their life, and I'm going to tell you why. I made it to Rochester, New York, and now I'm gonna get into a rental car and we're gonna drive about an hour and 15 minutes up to Auburn, New York for our final destination for this trip. Auburn, New York is the chosen hometown of the Harriet Tubman. That's right, Harriet Tubman, the famed Moses of her people who self-emancipated and led between 70 to 100 other people to freedom. But there was so much more to her life. She spent the last 55 years of her life here in Auburn, New York, and we're here to learn all about it. And while this small town in Cayuga County is proud to stake their claim as the chosen hometown of Harriet Tubman, it's also the birthplace of the women's suffrage movement and a key location for abolitionist activity. Auburn is home to the New York State Equal Rights Heritage Center, where you can learn more about Harriet Tubman, but you can also learn about other important Americans and different fights for freedom and civil rights throughout the years. In addition to the statue of Harriet Tubman outside, the Heritage Center is also the starting point for the Harriet Tubman Lantern Trail, where you can learn more about her life throughout the city of Auburn. And just next door is the Seward House Museum, the home of William and Frances Seward. So this is the Seward House. This is the home of William Seward, and he actually facilitated the purchase of the state of Alaska, and he was a major abolitionist, and it was actually his wife who invited Harriet Tubman to come here to Auburn, New York.
But this is one of the original 1816 rooms.
Wow. William Seward was also famous for being a New York governor, and he was Secretary of State under President Lincoln. During the tour, we learned that William Seward was more of an anti-slavery, but his wife, Frances Seward, was the real abolitionist. She befriended Harriet Tubman and invited her to move her family to Auburn from Canada. But this room in the basement is the most important room in the house because it holds a very big secret. I'm standing in the basement of the Seward home in Auburn, New York, and this room was actually used to house and hide people who were on the run to escape slavery. That's right, this room was actually part of the Underground Railroad. And yes, it does look like a kitchen, and that's because this was the original kitchen in the home. And at one point, the kitchen was moved upstairs, and this room became the room that will become a place to help others escape to their freedom. It's such a privilege to be able to stand and visit in a place like this that's so important to my personal heritage. As you exit, you would go through the carriage house where people would have been hidden under wagons and then able to go directly into the basement to hide. Pride and legacy of Harriet Tubman is all throughout the town. From murals to paintings, she's everywhere. And not too far from the Heritage Center is the gravesite where she's laid to rest. I'm here at the gravesite of Harriet Tubman. She's laid to rest right here. And the most beautiful part is that her nieces and nephews planted this amazing tree in her memory. What a beautiful way to pay tribute to a woman who's given us so much and done so much to change history. Harriet Tubman's place of rest is one of serenity, and it sits beneath this tree planted in 1913, the year that she died. And though she was denied the pension she was owed in life, she was buried with full military honors for all of her service in the Union forces. What a privilege to be able to sit alongside Harriet Tubman's gravesite and pay my respects in real life. She wasn't this mythical historical figure that we learn about in elementary school. She was a real person. She was a strong, amazing Black woman who was also an entrepreneur, a naturalist, and one of the biggest philanthropists with a huge heart for helping people. So, of course, it's only right that a woman this phenomenal has a national park named after her. I am here at the Harriet Tubman National Historic Park. This is my 43rd national park, and of course, it's extra special because, of course, it's Harriet Tubman. And I have got my Junior Ranger badge because they're so new that they don't even have stickers yet. It's the only thing I could get that had Harriet Tubman on it. But super excited. The church is over here to our right that she was actually a member of. The church at the new national park is the Thompson Memorial A.M.E. Zion Church, built in 1891. This is actually the A.M.E. church that Harriet Tubman attended, helped to have built, and it's part of the national park. And can you believe that even though it's designated national park in 2017, it just opened in the summer of this year, June 2024. We actually just had the privilege of meeting one of Harriet Tubman's nieces who's descended down. She's her great niece, and her name is Miss Deidre. She gave us some amazing history.
My mother didn't find out she was related till she was 25 years old.
Wow.
Because back then they were very closed mouth about Aunt Harriet, you know. So, and my mother was not born when Aunt Harriet died in 1913.
And when did you find out?
Geez, I was young. When my mother told us, we were quite young.
Okay.
But being young, you don't really grasp it
Yeah.
as well. You just go, oh yeah, and then you forget about it.
Yeah.
But the older we got, in fact, I have 12 siblings. The older we got, the more we got interested in it when we were going to church here too.
She told us that she was able to attend the opening for the church. They restored it to look as it did back when it was a functioning church. Oh, come on, let's take a look inside. Not only did Harriet Tubman attend this church, but she contributed $500 to the building fund, and she placed a single item inside the cornerstone, which is still there to this day. And this was a functioning church from 1891 until 1993.
So welcome first and foremost to Harriet Tubman National Historical Park.
It was really special to be greeted by Park Ranger Brittany Lane as she shared her love and passion for Harriet Tubman's legacy.
Harriet Tubman would not want you to solely focus on her because this was not Harriet Tubman attended church here, but she would want you to highlight the community that helped her to be able to do all of the things that she was able to do.
I love that Ranger Brittany shared with us the idea of community. They don't just want this church to be a place that people come and tourists come to visit. They want it to be a part of the community and a space that the community can utilize for different events.
Because Harriet Tubman's spirit is alive and well here in Auburn. And figuring out how these particular events relate and correlate to her life and her legacy. And it's not hard. We talk about one of the best humanitarians ever, caring for, even with thinking about the Harriet Tubman Home site, the homestead at 180 South Street. Powerful place that talks about how her legacy manifested even after her death. And so that's very important to mention too, is that everybody has their niche. And Harriet Tubman Home, we always like to allow people to know about the Harriet Tubman Home too, because many of our visitors are coming from there because we're new, we're the new kids on the block. So it's very important to know that Harriet Tubman was a woman of faith, and her faith guided her throughout every instance and every part of her life. And so that's what's so particularly special about this place and space.
I was really excited to visit the Harriet Tubman Home Visitor Center. I'm here at the Harriet Tubman Homestead, and this is where Harriet came to spend the last 55 years of her life with her family. She purchased this original home from Francis Seward, and so just walking around these grounds is so special. Eventually, she was able to add on the additional acreage, so I think it's a total of 25 to 30 acres that she owned total. And this is just a really special place to be able to walk on the ground where we know she walked. What a special moment. To start your day at the Harriet Tubman Home, you get to meet the one and only Reverend Paul Carter.
I can guarantee that before you leave here today, you will have learned something new about Harriet that you did not know before you arrived. And I'm glad to say I have 100% track record on that guarantee. So I know you're gonna learn something new today.
He is a lively man who's been doing these tours for the last 30 plus years, and he gives a vivid retelling of Harriet Tubman's life. He passed around this 2-pound weight to demonstrate what the object would have felt like that struck Harriet that ultimately caused her brain damage where she saw visions. And this is one of the most detailed timelines you will find anywhere of Harriet Tubman's life.
Also, Harriet Tubman was the only woman, the absolute only woman of any race to ever plan, execute, and lead armed troops into battle during the Civil War. Harriet Tubman led a regiment of over 200 armed soldiers on several missions. The most noted mission was called the Combahee River Raid. That's when she led Colonel James Montgomery and his colored troops across the Combahee River in South Carolina, where they went across the water to take back thousands of dollars of supplies after defeating the Confederates that were there. And in the process of doing it, they found that there was somewhere between 750 to 800 people who had been enslaved on that plantation. They loaded them on their steamboats, took them back across the water, and set them free. It's also been noted that of the men who served with her on the raid she led, none of her men were killed on any of her missions. Some were injured. We have no record of any of her men being killed. You must remember, she is the woman who said, "I never ran my train off the track, and I never lost a passenger." But that extends to her military career as well.
The first building on the property that you actually go to tour is the Home for the Aged. And this is where her mother lived, as well as other elderly in the community that Harriet Tubman helped to care for. This building and this land was actually part of the second purchase of the homestead, where she got this land for $1,450 in an auction. Here is the original 7 acres that Harriet owned, and originally there was a wood frame farmhouse here until it caught fire by one of her boarders. And so this is it. This is Harriet Tubman's home that she purchased. And after the fire in 1882, this new brick house here was constructed. And y'all, what's really impressive is this home was built and designed entirely by Black hands, both friends and family. Y'all, walking around Harriet Tubman's land that she owned is just so impactful. Learning more about her after her self-emancipation, these are the things that honestly I didn't learn in school, and I feel like most of us didn't either. So now you understand why I feel like Auburn, New York is one of those places that should really be a pilgrimage for all Americans. But join me next week, because Auburn is more than just history. These people know how to throw down with some good food and some good wine and beautiful natural scenery. So join me next week to learn more about Harriet Tubman's chosen hometown.